Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. My name is Rotimi Kari, and it's such a pleasure to be here today. And we are streaming from Lagos, Nigeria, to West Africa, to the entire world. And we'll be having a special broadcast today, and we will be hosted not by me today, by Finn Faludun. She will be staying the ship today. I'll be bringing her shortly. However, please tell everyone that the Good Morning Education Show is here. It started already, and we're excited to have you guys as well. And of course, so we do not run into trouble, it's proper for us to say good morning, Internet. Internet has been protesting for some time, and that was actually why we were not able to start exactly at the hour at 8 o'clock. So we hope to have that stuff sorted, today. All right. So we'll be having an interesting topic today. I'm sure Finn is ready, revving to go live with us. Good morning, Finn. How are you today?
Good morning, Mr. Rotimi, and it's good to have you back on the show. We have missed having you here. Every one of our tribe members are happy to see you again this morning. Good morning, everybody. It's a cool holiday morning um, in this part of the world, and we hope that your day is starting off to a good start. And even if it's been a little slow or dull, yeah, here you are. We have the Good Morning Education Show to cheer you up. Good morning.
Thank you very much. So we'll start with the headlines, and of course, we go to the conversation proper. So, over
Okay,
to you, Finn.
our words use maggot infested toilets, live like prisoners. Wow. Okay, so when we talked about let's say the toilet or looking at the toilet, it looks like what kind of topic was this? But for parents to come out to complain about the toilet, FGC Nise, is it Nise or Nike? Well, Nise. Okay, so I can just imagine what it's like. It's not something that one even wants to experience. Like how how do maggot infested toilets, are there nobody responsible for the cleaning? Is it an issue of shortage of water? Is it, what exactly is it? I don't want to believe that all the students that live in that hostel or in those hostels have hygiene issues. Even if some of them have and don't know how to clean up after themselves, they all cannot fall in the same category of not being able to maintain their sanitary facilities. So this will be going back right to the management. What exactly is the issue? Is there a blockage in the sewage system? Is it an issue of not enough water? Is it whatever it is? It needs to be sorted out because this is not good or healthy for anybody. Before we start having issues around disease breakouts and all of that. It really needs to be handled, treated, and nobody, not even if they are behind bars, nobody deserves to live in unsanitary conditions.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I think we have so much to look at today, and
Yeah. Okay, visitation panel solicits support of UNN community, calls for memoranda. Okay, the visitation panel has been going around several institutions or going around institutions in the country, and well, just as the Lagos state governor made a commitment to implementing the report of the visitation panel to LASU, It will be good for others and other institutions to adopt the same response and be willing to support them, to be willing to join hands together with the panel. Whatever their findings are, they're able to find workable solutions to move those institutions forward. That will be awesome. And here is welcoming Ugochi to the show this morning. Hello, Ugochi. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you too. Good morning to amazing.
Can you hear me now? I hope I am
Yes.
audible now. Okay, thank you.
Yes, we can hear you now. All you were saying before was just out.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay. So, eliminating odds against continuous learning with tech. Yeah, this is something that every stakeholder in the system needs to work together. Yeah, we know that children have been exposed to quite a lot of things, since they've had to go online. But then, as much as it's a good thing, we also need to work at eliminating whatever the downsides are, working together to eliminate those. Okay, next headline. NDDC donates multi-million naira science equipment to 46 secondary schools in Niger Delta. This is awesome. This is awesome. Many times we see government parastatals, government institutions, and we're wondering what they're doing, especially where they are indigenous or where they are localized. And then you're wondering what's the impact that the community is feeling of this institution. But this is a really good one for the secondary schools in the Niger Delta. uh, we hope to see that the learning experiences of the students in this area gets better and better with the equipment that they have just received. Okay. Winners emerge in BCG essay writing contest. Yay. I think we've been following this. I think we've been following this for a while. And or when the contest started, and it's good to see that eventually it's closing and it's rounding off beautifully. Yeah. InterSwitch assures UTME candidates of seamless registration. This is very important. It is of utmost importance that the candidates for UTME are able to register, and that they're able to register seamlessly, not have to go through a lot of stress for them to register for the exam. It's stressful enough to prepare for an exam, and an exam of that magnitude, it's not worth it adding registration issues to it. Okay, welcome back, Ugochi. Can you hear me now? Okay, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure she can hear me yet. Okay, so we go on with the headline. Uh, FUPRE to be among 400 best universities globally by 2025, says VC. The Federal University of Petroleum Resources in Efuru is aiming to be one of the best universities on the globe. I think that's a good that's a good mark for them to set for themselves, competing on the global scale, not competing against competition in the country and feeling, yeah, we are there. But when the competition is something higher, then there is always more to aspire to. There's always more to reach out for. There's always more to become. Good one there by Fupre. And okay, next headline. Foreshore school boss commends pupils and teachers for success in Cambridge checkpoint exam. One thing that really is gladdening for me in this headline is the recognition of the effort of the teachers. Many times we see things on signposts or schools are advertising and they say, no, our students scored this, our students had this point, our student, it's a lot about more about the efforts of the students, like there were no teachers involved. But with this is very encouraging for teachers. Their efforts are recognized and commended. We can't rule out the role that the teachers have played in preparing the students for their exams. So congratulations to the students and big congratulations to the teachers also, that their efforts is the fruits is obvious of their efforts. And congratulations to the entire school, to Foreshore School, for the success they have recorded. Ogochi, please confirm if you can hear me now, or if you're there.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, good. I
Yes,
think the
yeah.
connection is right back up. Yes, that's great. All right, so we go on together with this. Gombe governor or government hosts FUK management visitation panel pledges support. Ugochi, any thoughts on that? Any comments on that?
What's FUK? Did you hear me? I said, what's FUK?
Okay.
Federal University
Cardinal Canal.
of Cashier.
Kasher.
It's an institution. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kasher is not here in Nigeria, right?
No.
It is. It's a part. I think it's in the northern part of Kash because it's in Gombe State. So it's in the northern part of the country.
Okay, well, I
It's
think
probably
that
the
it's a
state-owned
good thing
university.
for governments and the institutions operating within them to work together because they are trying to achieve something, right? And there are things that an institution might not be able to achieve without the state's buy-in. So I think it's a good call that both parties are willing to work together and partner.
That synergy in all the stakeholders in the system, we cannot push that off the burner. It's always going to be on the front burner. We need that cooperation, that collaboration with all the systems and all partners, everyone involved. Yeah, it's really necessary. And I hope that, well, the visitation panel has been moving from place to place. I'm hoping that really this is not just going to be one of those visits, that really we would see a change in the way higher institutions will be run going forward, from whatever the recommendations and reports are. Yeah. Okay, I think that's the last of our headlines. Do we have any more?
No, that's it.
Okay, so we're launching into our topic for today. What should students be learning? I'll just ask that question straight on. So what should students be learning? Ugochi, please go first. Ugochi, can you hear me? Are you still there?
Please confirm you can still hear me, because I can hear you clearly, but I'm not sure you can hear me.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Hi. Confirm you
Yeah, I
can
can
still
hear you
hear
now.
me.
I can hear you now.
Okay, so when you are saying what should students be learning, you mean in school, right?
Yes.
Maybe you should give us an introduction to this topic. Just lead the direction, because I'm not
Okay,
Okay, I
certain
so
didn't
let
want
me
to bias.
let me
I didn't want to give any
direction
bias. That's why I said I was just going to ask you straight off. But okay.
you want us to.
so let
Yeah,
me say
okay.
something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
So when we say what should students be learning, I think first and foremost we need to understand that students learning must be a learning that is infused with the social reality that they have. Learning must be relevant. That's one of the pivots of learning. The relevance of what the students are studying, meaning that knowledge that they gain must be knowledge applicable today, knowledge that enhances, so that the outcome is that the students are not just informed, but they are empowered. Because it's possible for you to be informed and you are not thoroughly or totally empowered. I believe that the students should be learning about themselves more than about other things. Because, sometimes we get to end up having a situation where students go to school, come out of school, and they know about everything except themselves. Students need to know about their strengths, about the possibilities that the world holds to them. They need to learn about how they can actually be change agents in their society, how they can make impact and income and influence at the same time. Because right now, the age of achievement has shrunk to the ability to communicate. So there are many things you don't need to be an adult before you begin to make impact or make income in the world today. So I think students, those are things that form the groundwork of what students should be learning. Relevant things that empowers them both in the short term and also in the long term. Students should be learning independence and interdependence. Um, we shouldn't be all the time waiting for a government. So I believe that the resilience should be one of the things when we teach government, maths, English, biochemistry, whatever it is we are teaching, we must ensure that there's an application to the real world, and it should drive the student to be very independent. Sometimes when you look at the way we write notes in class and the emphasis of notes, even the approach of exams, it does not promote independence, because everyone is trying to get themselves towards a common answer. But when you begin to look at project-based learning, when you look at things that make children at least first draw up the thing within and also have a voice of expression, then you begin to see that learning in itself becomes functional to them instead of it to be routine based. So I think that's really what it is. Then we cannot begin to drill down to begin to say, okay, in what particular things, maybe subjective wise, in what particular area. So that's what I think. Over to you, Finn.
Yes, thank you very much for that. Yes, really, when we talk about what should students be learning, is what makes their learning experience, their classroom experience, what makes it complete, what makes it fulfilling, what makes it different from just going to learn by rote, by just well, what the teacher has said is what we know, and we don't know more than that. So what exactly are they sitting in class for? What exactly are they listening to that lecturer online for? Ugochi,
Please
do you
confirm you
have
can
your
still
thoughts
hear
to
me.
share with us now? Yes, I can. Yes, Ugochi, I can hear you. Okay. Does not seem like she's hearing me. Hello, Ugochi, there?
Let's carry on. I think she would
Okay.
connect.
Oh, okay. She's out now. So really, there are times that some students are bold enough to ask a teacher a question, maybe some questions in class, and they ask after a topic or after a lesson, they ask, so what are we supposed to take out of this? What's the relevance of this to our lives? And just as correctly as I said, students are supposed to learn about themselves. So their time in the classroom should not just be about loading them with concepts. I mean, there are some concepts I learned that I don't even remember them anymore. And the reason I don't remember them is because they're not relevant to my life outside of that period when it was taught. So yeah, I know for students in the sciences especially, there are all these sorts of theories and theorems and all sorts of formulas. And one of the reasons I did not particularly enjoy mathematics was because of the different kind of formulas. And right now, I'm asking myself, in what areas have I used these formulas?
Okay,
It
so
it
let me
would
see.
have been
Let me
okay.
interject there. So the real deal would now be that sometimes we could be a bit too hard on the system, um, and I think the missing link is not just what is relevant, because sometimes if you look at it at the age and at the time and with the way the curriculum is structured, it might actually be relevant, but because you did not find leverage, you see, sometimes it's not about teaching what is relevant. It's about ensuring that even in its relevance, there is leverage. And for leverage to happen, the opportunity must be there for you to integrate and also internalize. Do you understand? You must have
Yes.
the opportunity to integrate and internalize. So, what happens is most times, because we are taught generally and nobody is considering the child's future or the child's possibilities. So the teaching has now translated to a routine that we must achieve based on the benchmark of curriculum and, of course, the scheme of work. So one way that can help further is that with all the formulas, because if you look at it, when you look at it in future, you find the relevance of math, you find the relevance of these formulas, but because there was no leverage to you while you were learning it, even though it was relevant as they taught it, apart from the other issues that whether people teach well or not, you begin to see that it's now contextual. And I think sometimes, having trained teachers, I see two things that are kind of a cause of worry. Number one, some teachers really try their best to make their subject come alive and become real. But the truth is, for them, they themselves live in an abstract world. I don't know whether you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So there's so much limitation and limit to how they can relate it to the children. Are you following me? Because
Yeah.
even industries are not open with information. So it's difficult for them to relate it with manufacturing because you only hear about the brands and you only hear about their balance sheets. They don't leave so much at that level, except you are doing secondary school, university research, which will require too much of, and they can't deviate energy. But those are the things. But in other climes, access to information is not a horrible approach. It's not a gory kind of outlook. So sometimes teachers feel helpless and they have to resort to TV programs that are not terrestrial in nature, but maybe cable in nature. And in some cases, they are also limited. So these are things that we need to begin to ask ourselves. Because if you don't own what you are teaching, the dynamics in conveying it becomes a little bit more difficult. Safety chick, welcome back. Over to you, Fane.
Okay, thank you. I was hoping that Ugochi is really fully back
Thank you very
now.
much, sir. Please, can you hear me
Okay.
better now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Ugochi, please carry on. We can hear you.
Okay, so I noticed there is a lag, but when you ask me to speak, I'll speak.
Okay, so you can go on.
There is clearly. Yes. So, what should students be learning was the question. And after listening to the introductions by both of you, I'll just say that because the world is changing very fast and because of new realities, it's important that we are tailoring our education, what we're teaching children, to be adaptive and to focus on life skills, critical thinking, because the jobs that we think are the future may not necessarily be the future when we get there. But if we have trained our children with adaptability, critical thinking skills, regardless of the institution they find themselves in, they have it in them, to adapt, learn what they need to learn on the go, as opposed to if we just keep teaching the same old, same old is not going to serve us anymore. We've got to really ensure that we're equipping the children such that even when they leave the classroom, they can look back and say, oh, because I learned this in school, it's useful. And we don't keep having a case where children will say, I learned this in school, but I can't see what I'm using it to do in my life today. Do you see what I mean? So we must ensure that what students are learning is adaptable and that we hone their critical thinking skills, the ability to take initiative, because that's one of the things that'll be really important as we go in the future. With the world changing and all that, you don't need somebody to chase you and ask you to go and study certain things for you to maybe brush up your own skills by yourself. You should be able to take initiative of your own life, your career, and all that. So that's one of the things we teach children. So one of the things we should incorporate into the things children are learning in school is the ability to take initiative on certain projects, certain actions, so that it just becomes a part of nature to them to be able to make those kinds of decisions. Back to you, Finn.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Ugochi. Yeah, we need to help them or let them see the need for them to conceptualize and internalize their learning so that it makes absolute meaning to them. And on that note, I welcome to the show this morning, Rhoda Odigo. You're welcome.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Show.
We're glad to have you here. We're talking about what students should be learning. And the question I will be asking right now will go first to you. And that's, do we know, or do educators, teachers, the school system, do we really know what the needs of the students are?
I think it's a great question. I think it's a question that we constantly ask in the classroom, even ask students or important stakeholders basically around the business of delivering education or providing education. Even these days, I kind of question myself when I say delivery or curriculum delivery, because That in itself is another whole world of idea that we should now start to rethink. But not to digress, do we really know what we should be teaching? I think we do. I think we do. I just think that we just do not collect it in an evidence based way, package it, and make it an agenda that has a driving work plan, like a work plan that says, here is a timeline upon which we are going to execute, or sorry, from plan, design, implement, pilot. Sorry, let me take it that back. Plan, design, pilot, um, evaluate, implement, and scale. I think we just don't follow, that process that makes for a really rigorous um, answer to what we should be learning. So we know, I don't even, how they say Nigerians are experts of the problems of of Nigeria, but we're not as much experts to the solutions of Nigeria, because Nigeria requires diverse solutions in almost everything. That's because what is my truth isn't the truth of another 40 plus year old woman in Taraba State. Okay, so and so it is for her children, and so it is for her, her own economic viability. So we know these things. It's just that we're not working intentionally using evidence and data to back what we should do. One, that is collecting the data as should. I mean, I've read a lot of the news headlines, and sometimes I just read about, I tried to investigate on the alternative schooling program, which is supposed to deal with the OSC, that's the out of school children, under a partnership between the Ministry of Human Disasters, Humanitarian Efforts, or National Disasters, or something like that, with the Ministry of Education. And even that, just the way the journalist asked the question, didn't even, I finished reading it and I didn't know particularly how that program was going to run. So is it going to run in schools? Is it going to, because if we say we're taking the education to the children, how? Are you taking it to their communities? Are you building small tents? I just didn't know. I mean, I read it. It's an interview with the female minister that, is heading that department. And I just didn't know. I knew a lot about, they got an approval, they got, and all of those things. But I just didn't know what it was ultimately to who this parent is or this child that's going to experience education. So, do we know the problems? I think we do. It's just we don't use data, package it, you create a necessary work plan that has timeline, deadlines, tasks assigned to people, etc. To ensure that we implement. Yeah, so that's my thought.
Thank you for that. And knowing what we have the data, we know what we need to teach, but we're not using it. That's a problem on its own. That I hope that very soon we will not be looking for external solutions to a problem that we already know, and which we even already know the solution. We only need to implement those things to move them forward. And as Olatunde Adebayo he's dropped a comment for us. Transformational teaching is the only thing that can guarantee transformational learning. So where does or how does transformational teaching start? That's one. Secondly, how much of life modeling should the school be for students? How much of the model of what they're facing, they will face in life, should they be getting in class? Should they be getting in school? Is this part of transformational teaching, or is it something that should be left exclusively for the family, considering that each family has their own values? Maybe communities have their own values that families buy into and say, "Oh, this is what we're going on with." So two questions in one. How do we kickstart or jumpstart or make effective transformational teaching? And then how much of life modeling should students be getting in school? Ugochi.
So I think that transformational teaching, transformational learning should happen both at home and in school. And that's because these are the two locations where children spend the bulk of their time. If the children are not majorly at home, they are majorly in school. So these are the two places where they form character, they form their values, they form their attitudes and behaviors to life. So it's important that parents are playing their part and teachers are playing their part. What happens is that many times we find that the home front might be doing so well, but maybe the school the child is sent to is not doing as much. Or the school is doing so well, but then the home front, it's just the child is just basically trying to survive by themselves. However, if we have both sides doing their job well, to a really large extent, is going to help in shaping that child. So linking it to modeling. Modeling is really important in both places again. Because many times, if the children are seeing bad stuff happening at home and their school gives them an enabling environment to begin to do the same thing, they will do the same thing. That's why I mentioned this on TVC last week. That's why you will see a case where there is this community, there is this popular tout who everybody pays obeisance to. The girls would want to be his girlfriend because you know that they will be protected. Now, a child sees that and then goes to his secondary school and forms that kind of clique. So he now tries to be the one that is the head bully. And then if people do not obey him, he organizes people to beat that person up. So very soon the students in the school begin to know that, this is the tout. The girls who have grown up in an environment where you are the girlfriend to the reigning tout, you'll be protected, you'll be hustling to be the girlfriend. The boys who have seen that if you stay out of the way and try to hide and be beneath the scene, nothing will happen to you. We try to be there. The ones who see that if you are friendly with these big touts, it will make your life easy. They will try to be friendly. So do you see they will replicate what they're seeing in the wider society in their own schools? And maybe because the school has not put a system in place to check it, such a thing will thrive. But there are some schools that they have this strict culture of should I say addressing behavior and all that. Such a thing will not thrive there. So if the school has the right structure in place, even if a child wants to bring bad behavior from the home front into the school, it will not work. And vice versa also. If there's bad stuff going on in school, but at the home front, the parents have their own structure of how things are done and their penalties, the child will not be able to transfer it back to the home. And that's why I believe that both sides need to play their part very well to raise well-rounded children. So modeling should happen on the home front, modeling should happen in school. If a child is in a home where every time the father gets angry is to slap the mother, every time it's just to transfer the aggression, he too, he feels that when you're under pressure, transfer the aggression. So he would start beating his classmates. Do you see what I mean? So both sides, transformation learning can happen in both sides, and modeling can happen in both sides. Back to you, Finn.
Thank you, Gochi. The same question to
Let me
you,
say
sorry, Timmy.
something.
Yeah.
So to add to that, when we look at teaching in itself, when you say transformational teaching, you need to understand that the end must be the basis for anything that we're doing. And so there must be transformational thinking before you can have transformational teaching. And that thinking must be broad based to the point where it's not just about the facilitator teaching, but it's about the totality of the experience. What should be one, the outcome of this class? What should be the outcome of this experience? What will they go away with after the interaction with the facilitator or teacher? So transformational teaching is not necessarily starting with the content, but it's starting with the design, which is the thinking in itself. The thinking that goes into the teaching is very important. That's very important. Then secondly, we need to also look at it as also the experience, because when you look at teaching and learning, what cements them together is the experience. Our minds are like a storage system or gadget, and what enables and enhances the kind of storage is the experience that we have. And of course, we know the basic classification when you say someone has good memories or pleasurable memories and unpleasant memories. So you need to understand that if the schooling experience, if the teaching experience, if the learning experience does not leave a memorable, a pleasant memory in the learner, it can alter, no matter how good intention you have, it can alter or affect the entire outcome expected. So I think for us to have transformational teaching and learning, whether it's at home, whether it's at school, whether it's amongst peers, the experience cannot be sacrificed. And of course, it starts by the design, which is the thinking. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And well, while we round off, or as we round off, one thing that I would like for us to touch is feedback. So, in learning, in teaching and learning, there is always feedback. Feedback is given from the students, from the learners to the teachers, from the teachers to the learners, from the school to parents, from parents to the school. But looking at this system of feedback and how all of the aspects of feedback in all the different dimensions, one, what kind of feedback should be given back, or how do we give feedback to students, knowing that sometimes the way feedback is given throws students, especially, throws them off, like, oh, what's the point? I don't need to try anymore if they're saying this is how far I can go, or if they're already judging me. How do we separate, or how do we give feedback that is quality and that is sure to help our students learn better what they're supposed to be learning, and ending at that point of learning that is transformational to them? Rhoda.
Thanks, me. I think it's a great question. I really like that we're ending what this particular topic with feedback being the food of champions, as many have said. Um, so there are three kinds of feedback, in my head. There's self feedback, there's peer feedback, and there's group feedback. And with self, I mean, one of the things I think that we're not really doing well is in that world of where we've silenced student voice and choice. And that is something that I always like to bring up, because that's one area that we really aren't doing very well when it comes to providing the service of education. But self feedback, for one, is how are you enabling a reflective feedback within inside the classroom as a classroom culture? Are students able to, do they have a moment, one or two, to reflect on the work that they have done, and then to say, I've done this well, or I think I can do better. And that in itself can be inspired by a teacher. I don't want to use influence, because we don't want to influence too much, we want to inspire. So it should be inspired by a teacher who, whilst doing their something in our world, in my own world of work, we call the check, respond, leave, where the teacher goes around the classroom, checking upon the students, respond to what they're doing, and ask the students to check on their work. And because every time we tell students answers, and that should be the other way around. It should be 180 to that. Is it the students are saying is for you to spot where there's an error and ask the students to check on it. Immediately you say you should check on it. What you've done is to inspire them, to tell them that something is wrong here, and then they look again, and that's something that helps to drive self feedback. And so one other thing that you can that's teachers and educators or in the business of education can do is also try to see how they can evaluate themselves. Some people think that when we make children mark their work, that it will lead to them cheating. But if you do it right, it will actually lead to them not cheating. It leads to something we call academic integrity. So that's something that should be there. So self feedback as a culture is something that's not also part of what we do. And then there's peer feedback. This is peer to peer, like who is sitting beside me. And I know I don't want to go too long into details, but who sits beside me? How can we exchange our work? How can we brainstorm together? How can we then reflect on what we have said and give ourselves feedback? Oh, I think you said this right. I think, we should think of this in the other way, and things like that. These are things that are not generally existent in the world of this education service. And then group feedback, administrative wise, whether it's from teacher to admin to teacher, heads of school to group feedback. How are we working in meetings? What's the element of feedback? How are we taking it? Do we share down feedback? Do we activate voices within the system? So this is, I think, one of the ways. One very significant part of an overburdened assessment system that we don't already we're tinkering of how to be less about assessment and more about learning. And feedback it's something that helps with learning, and it ultimately feeds back into a great assessment whenever you choose to evaluate. And that's what we're seeing with the results of Finland and all of these kinds of countries that are really doing well. So it's interesting that a country like Finland, where the population is small, much smaller than a lot of places in states in Nigeria, and then they don't even do any form of benchmark assessment, national standardized assessment. They don't do things like that as a measure of feedback of how well their students are doing, but still go on to exceed known big countries in education. So it tells us something. It's a story to tell. And some people say, don't compare Finland with yourself, but you can compare. If you use the population of the entire country, you can compare it with the population of the student population in some states, in e.g. like Lagos State. So it's again stories of things that can be. But so that's my those are my thoughts around feedback.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. One thing that stood out for me there is teachers should aim to inspire and not to influence. So in our feedback, we should aim to inspire them to be more reflective, to take charge of their own learning, to be better inquirers, and conceptualize what they are learning. Okay, we have some comments from Olatunde Adebayo before we go round to Ugochi and Mr. Rotimi for their pattern shots this morning. And he says transformational teaching and learning should begin from home to the school and from the school to home. Children should be allowed to have an interaction with their own content, while the teacher guides and the family system should be re-engineered to meet the needs of the child in the forefront. We need to also look at the ill practices in the conduct of our external examination that does not allow the children to be encouraged to enhance their creativity. Absolutely. Our exam system it hardly leaves room for students to give what they have learned with in their own words. It just cram it, know it, give it back to the teacher the way it has been given to you. So let's take your pattern shots, Ugochi, and then we'll go to Mr. Rotimi.
Okay, so just to reiterate what I've mentioned earlier, we must ensure that what our children are learning equips them to be able to face the environment, because we are now in an evolving environment. Things would keep changing. So we've got to equip them such that even when we're not present, they can make good decisions.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And
All right.
your pattern shots, please.
I
Yes,
think
please
I'll
go on.
just stand by. I'll stand by what Rhoda said, and also chip into what Ugochi has mentioned. We must bear in mind that at the end of the day, it's a situation of the end justifies the means. So we must ensure that we have a picture at the back of our minds. We don't want to spend years and years and years engaging students who do not feel prepared for life. So we must ensure that in all that we do, the learning experience should never be a disadvantage to the student at the end of the day. Because if they come out of the schooling experience and they feel less empowered, then I think we've done them wrong. And so we must wake up to begin to ask ourselves serious questions, and we must be truthful to ourselves. Can the learning experience deliver on its promise? Will they be at an advantage? Will there be leverage as a result of going to school? If not, we need to go back to the drawing board and make learning functional, make education functional. And like we normally say, education must begin to understand that curriculum within it must meet industry. And that's the only way we can begin to say that going to school is far better than not going to school. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to everyone who has been here this morning. Thank you to Ugochi. Thank you, Rhoda. Thank you, Staritimi. Okay, that feels strange saying, saying that, but thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and sharing of.
Rhoda, you don't say hello to me.
Boss.
I was waiting for you.
Behind the scenes. Don't worry, you'll hear from me shortly.
Thank you to our viewers, Olatunde Adebayo, Smarton Gara, and to everyone who is watching and have quietly following us. Thank you so much. We will see you tomorrow again, bright and early, on another episode of the Good Morning Education Show. But today, enjoy your holiday. Take time out to rest and prepare for next week when full work starts again. But before we go this morning, we'd like to say to you, we like to round off with our usual good morning tonic. So, are we ready? Are we all ready? We're taking it all together this morning. Okay, I do the countdown. Yeah. So 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
It's always a great
morning.
It's always a great
on the
morning.
Good Morning Education Show.
All right.
Have a great day.